Le'iloi Nishmas Perel Bas David, mother of Beverly Berry. I want to thank Beverly and Richard sponsoring. Le'iloi Nishmasa, the Heilige Neshama should be Zeicha to a tremendous aliyas and Neshama, Gan Eytan Shamayla Mechayel Achayel Emet Hashem. I mentioned as well, Yosef ben Moshe HaKohen and Meir Aaron ben Eliezer. Halayim Hashalom, the Heilige Neshama should be Zeicha to a continuous tremendous aliyas and Neshama, and Gan Eytan Shamayla Mechayel Achayel Emet Hashem. So let's start with Siyat and Shema. If I could just share with you briefly something I mentioned at the outset of Shalosh Shudas, an unbelievable remez mentioned by the Sefer Avos Torah. Ayadei Reb Pinchas Zalman Segel Ish Horovitz. It's quoted by the Gavaldi Sefer Otzer Plos Torah, and he mentions it both in Parshas Toras and in Parshas Vayishlach in two different contexts. All right, the Sefer Avos Torah Adover Nifla Admod. From the beginning of Parshas Bereshis until Le'enei Kol Yisrael, the last words in Mezos HaBracha. How many times do you think the Shem Havaya, the Shem Etzem of the Eibishter is mentioned? Yud Kei Vav Kei is mentioned Elef Tav Tav Chav Pamim, 1,820 times the Shem Havaya is mentioned. And now it's not for now where exactly we come up with the number 1,820. How to be a separate shmuz with Siyata D'Shmaya. But the Lamaisa, we can't ignore something which is clearly not at all coincidental. If you add up, writes the Sefer Avos Torah, all the words that Yaakov Avinu spoke in the course of the Chumash, together with his two primary wives, the Hainu Rochel, the Ikra, Keres Abayis, as well as Leah, if you add up, as the Sefer Avos Torah did way before the computer age, he added up all the words that Yaakov, Rochel, and Leah spoke on the pages of Chumash, and it equals precisely 1,820. Keneged the 1,820 occurrences of the Shem Havaya mentioned throughout Chumash from Bereshis until the end. If you think the Pliya stops there, you don't even know what's coming. The Shiftei Ka, the Yud Bei Shiftei Yisrael, add up all the words that Ruvain, Hashim and Alevi, all the way through Binyamin, that they uttered, that appear openly in the pages of Chumash, and all the words recited, said by the Shiftei Ka, equals exactly 1,820. All connected the 1820 times that Shem Havaya is mentioned in Chumash. Now it's also a separate shmuz. There are only three parshios in the Torah where the Shem Havaya Yud Kei Vav Kei appears but once. One is this past week's Parsha Vayishlach in the 7th pasuk. Have a look, and then you have it once in Parshas Vayechi and once in Parshas Truma. That itself beckons our scrutiny, but perhaps we could suggest to answer just one aspect. If you look at all Chamisha Chumshei Torah, there are only two parshios in the Torah where the Shem Havaya Yud Kei Vav Kei does not appear even one time. Half of a fellow. Shem Havaya Yud Kei Vav Kei, there are only two parshios in the Torah where it doesn't make one single appearance. And what are those two parshios? Parshios Miketz and Vayigash. Advarim Gendolim Eina B'Mikra Aboisei mandates our scrutiny. What pshat mapesha advarim? So perhaps Lefiyani Estaiti, the Shiftei Ka. Now remember the words that came out of their precious lips, 1,820 Keneged the Shem Havaya. At the beginning of this week's Parsha, Parshas Vayeshev, they were all getting along, at least to a degree. They were all settled, all living together with Yaakov Avinu, all there together. But what happens? Things took a downturn, and then we had major division. We had the Pirut, Shimon, Levi, Yosef. Next thing you know, he's in a pit. Vayeshev sees the tables turned drastically, and there's a major Pirut Alavovus within the Shiftei Ka. By the end of this week's Parsha, when we get to Miketz, they're no longer living together. Yosef is already down in Mitzrayim. Vayigash, they're still not living together. There's a manifestation of the period Alavavas between the Shiftei Ka and the Shiftei Yisrael. But Parshas Vayechi, Yaakov makes his descent down to the land of Egypt. And then once again, the final 17 years of his life, the Heilig is 80. They're all together, living together, Benachas, learning together, Moiradik. There are only two parshios in the Torah where the Shiftei Ka are not together. And what are those two parshios? Miketz and Vayigash, they were not together. Eibishter says, "My shame, no hashros hashchina." My same way Sota Yedzayin and Aleph. Ish veisha zochu shchina shui b'neim lo zochu eisho chlosan. Amela Eibishter says, a period alavavis. You're not living together. You're not getting along. Miketz and Vayigash, you're still separate. Eibishter says, you will not witness the appearance of one mention of Shem Havaya Yud Kei Vav Kei Parshios Miketz and Vayigash. Haflam Afela, perhaps that is one idea. Hakoponim. We know that when they broke up and they had the machlokes, it all needs a beer. What exactly was going on? It all started with Yosef, Hatzadi being Motzi, being maybe Diba Samra El Avian, and it's a big shaila. And of course, the Parsha Rochim and Rosh Aleph by the Baal Mishnah Lamelech, and there's a major Dian and Klei Chemda and so many other Svarim. What was the status of Klai Yisrael already? Legabe B'Yavos, do they have a status of Bnei Yisrael, Bnei Noach, Avim and Achai? It was a whole big shaila. What were they doing wrong? They didn't think they were doing something wrong. They were deeper machlokes, far more profound machlokes than what shoots at us from the Pshat Miloli, the Pshuto Shemikra. There were big things going on. Ad Kedei Kach writes the Shlo Kodesh. A number of Sfarim cite, the Chavetz Chaim cites the Shlo. Shlo is quoted by many Sfarim that one aspect of their machlokes that created the division is that they created an animal al yadei sefer yitzira. Mela, they said there's no shaylei v'mracha. You don't need shchita when it comes to an animal made al yadei sefer yitzira. He thought there was a shaylei gilei rice. He saw them with a certain woman. Shteit and shlo. They made the woman al yadei sefer yitzira. It was a golem that came in the demusav in the cave up. So they were making things al yadei sefer yitzira miyuchas to none other than Avram Avinu. So they were doing things al pi kabbalah. So Yosef saw one thing. There was really another thing going on behind the scene. That's the Yadu to Geshlo Kaddish. How was the Siva Machlagis? Lamaisa, what comes out? It's unbelievable. Remember, Yosef Atzadik is 17 years old at the time, and what are they holding in? They're mamish holding in Sefer Yetzirah. They're holding in Toras and HaNistar. These are the shiftei kah. They're creating animals. Gailam al yadei Sefer Yetzirah. They're mamish holding in these inyanim. Where are they getting all these inyanim that they're holding in Toras and HaNistar? We turn to the outset of this week's Parsha. And what do we know when it came to Yosef Atzadik Yisrael Oves Yosef Mikobonov Ki Ben Zekunim Holo? He is the Ben Zekunim, a male of Aslok Sonas Pasim. Many different Perushim. What does it mean, Ben Zekunim? Writes the Baal HaTurim. What's Ben Zekunim? Zok the Baal HaTurim. Zekunim is Gematria Roz 207. Shamosolo Rose Taira. Yaakov Avinu was giving over to Yosef Atzadik the Rosei Torah, the secrets of the Torah, and the Baal HaTurim goes weiter. We have Zekunim is also Nutriko, and it's a Rosh Tevis for Zeroim, Kodshim, Noshim, Yeshuas, based on Shamas Laman Aleph, Laman Aleph, Alpi, the Posuk, and Yishai, Lam Gimel Vav, Ayam Unisitecha. That corresponds to Seder Nezikin and the Moed, in the Feldain, Baal HaTurim, Hasholim edition. Many different commentaries why the Baal HaTurim left out Seder Taharas. What happened to Taharas? But Lamaisa, Shishay Seder Mishnah suddenly alluded to in the Ben Zekunim. After all, as the Mizrahi and others explain, Ben Zekunim is a Lashon of Chochmah. Rashi cites the Targum. Bar Chokim, it's an Indian of Chochmah. Why? Alpi Kedushin Daf Lamed Beis Amud Beis. What's a Zokein? Contraction of Zekona. Mi Shekona Chochmah. Zekona Chochmah is the Pnei Yeshua, right? What other Kinyan in the world matters? The Kulabay, this is it. There's no other Kinyan but Torah. So that's the Zokein Zekona. Zekona Torah, that's Ben Zekunim. He got the Torah. So he got not just the Torah Toras HaNiglah, he got Toras HaNistar Rozia Torah. Writes the Ramban later on, Kama Shalom and Mishem Ve'ivor Masolo Lomar Shamasolo Chochmas Vesisri Torah. And once a maskel of Baal Sod Keilu Hayazokin Marav Yamin. So writes the Ramban, the Baal HaTurim, the son of the Rosh. They were mamish holding, but not only were they all collectively holding up the Shlo, they were making people Gailam, an animal Aydei Sefer Yetzirah. But the Iker Sidus HaTorah went over to Yosef Atzadik. But that was the world they were living in, and that's an Ibn Chaim Kayidu and Sha'ala Per Chaf Aleph, that the Avos HaKadoshim pre-Matan Torah, they can make cheshbonos and the Olam HaKabbalah in the world of Toras HaNistar, because they were living in a world of Kabbalah, of mysticism, of otherworldly knowledge. They can make cheshbonos. Yaakov knew what was going on. Esav and Leah. Esav messed up. I have to marry Leah. They were making unbelievable cheshbonos. That was the world they were living in. So that's what was taught in the yeshiva Hashem and Aver. The idea of rozim, of sodas HaTorah, and the Mela created machlokes, and they were holding it sodas HaTorah. They're creating an animal. Yosef doesn't see it as such. Mela, even though he was a baki, there were machlokes in these inyonei Kabbalah. So the Maisa comes Av b'chochma, rach b'shonim. Avada, that's the Ben Zekunim, that's the Sefer Gematria, so the Marashmi Leblen, he's Ben Zekunim, Ben Zayin Konei HaMenorah, Ben Zayin Konim, he corresponds to the 7 Konim of the Menorah. That's why Bnei Yisrael writes, he married Osnos, Osnos is Gematria, Chochma, times 7, because there are Zayin Chochmas, connected the 7 branches of the Menorah, in the Chidah Midbar Kademus, and Rabbi Yonis and Aisha Teres Davash talking about what are really the 7 primary Chochmas. Chochma times 7 is Gematria Osnos, that's Zekunim, Ben Zayin Konim, that's Yosef Atzadik. That's why Yosef the Megala Mukas is going to get Chanukah. Yosef, of course, Chanukah, he goes down to Goshna, Nes Gadol HaYasham. Yosef Kamachu 156, Antiochus 156, Melech Yavin 156, Zelum Azel Shalakim, the miracle Chanukah took place in Sion, and Yerushalayim Kamachu 156. How do you get to 156? You take Yavan, and when you take Yavan and join it to the Tzaddik, Yosef is Yosef HaTzaddik. Gemara in Sota Lav Lamed Vav and Yuma Lamed Hey Beis, and the Gemara in Sota, what do we know? Yosef is Yosef HaTzaddik. Take the Tzaddik as the prefix and join Yavan Yud Vav Nun to Tzadi. What do you get? Sion, Yerushalayim, where the miracle of Hanukkah take place. In Sion, Yerushalayim, what do you think the Gematria of Sion is? 156. Gematria of Yosef. That's Zolum Azeh Asolokim. That's where it took place in the city of Sion, and we spin the dreidel where Goshna Nes Gadol HaYasham. That's why Osnas Gematria Chochma times 7. That's Yosef HaTzaddik. He's the one connected Hanukkah. Makes sense. What was the Haftorah we just had? Avadja Parakala Pasha Yirches Haya Beis Yaakov Leish Beis Yosef Lahava, and that's Lahava B'chulei. So Yosef HaTzaddik is connected Hanukkah. That's why we always talk about the Parsha Yosef HaTzaddik. We always lay them Hanukkah time. That's why after Shabbos Chafal Beis my Hanukkah. What's the next Gemara? Chabeis Amin Aleph and Shabbos Va'borek Eimamayim Aim Eiman Achoshan Kram Yeshbo. That's the Smichas Yosef HaTzaddik. It's all about the story of Hanukkah. There's a lot going on with Yosef HaTzaddik. So Mela, that's what they're learning. They're learning Rosim and Sonas HaTorah, and that's what's going on in them. But Lamaisa, what do we see from the Baal HaTurim? It wasn't just like the Ramban and Baal HaTurim that it was simply Toras HaSod, Toras HaNistar, because in that same Nutrikan of Zekunim we have Zroim and Moed at the end, we have Noshim, we have Yeshua, so we have Kochim, we have the Shishas and Mishnah, we have Toras HaNiglah, Toras HaNistar, and there was a lot going on that they were teaching. And then we also have Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky Kayadua, 2 places in Emes Yaakov in the beginning of Vayetze, and again in the beginning of this week's Parsha Vayeshev. What was he teaching him? He was teaching him Toras HaGolus, because since he knew that Yosef was going to go into Golus, same way Kliyakar no one's asked the Kasha, why are you focusing so much on Yosef? He's going into Golus, I have to give him this Chachma. But it's more than that. It's not just I'm giving him the Chachma, it's giving him the Chachma of what? Of Koma Shalomar Be Yeshivas Shem and Aver. Now again, the Dimmer Gersos and Rashi Alpi the Medrash, but Pashas, there's what he learned in Yosef Olim, Ol of Shem and the Ol of Aver. What was taught in the Ol of Shem? And what was taught in the Ol of Aver? Shem, of course, was Nitzel, Midor HaMabul. Dor HaMabul was what? Depravity, perversity, immorality, a breakup of society from within. What was Dor HaFlaga? Dor HaFlaga, where Aver, the grandson of Shem, he lived in a Dor HaFlaga, was a rebellion, a Merida, Nimrod, Sheyodeus Rebbeinu and Eskavein, Limrod, a rebellion against Hashem, against Hashkocha Elyona. So Mamela, Yaakov Avinu gives Yosef HaTzaddik what? He gives him the Chochma of Shem and he gives him the Chochma of Aver, because Yosef's going down to Mitzrayim. What's glaringly absent in Mitzrayim? In Mitzrayim, it's Ervas Ha'aretz, it's Shtufei Zima, it's Besor Chamayrim Besora. It's the central place of immorality and perversity to the greatest extent, the nadir of all corruption and immorality. That's Keneged Shem. It was Nitzel from Dor HaMabul. Avodah Zarah and Vav Beis Beis Dinos Shem goes to all Arayas. So Yosef's going to the world of Arayas. I have to give him the Torah of Shem. But he's also going down to Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim, Hashem. Who is Hashem? Asher Esra Makolo. They don't know God. They don't know Hashkacha Fakir. Paro says, well, Liori Vani Yisisoni. I made the There's no Hashkacha Yona. Amela, that's Toras Aver, who is Nitzel from Dor HaFlaga. So Yaakov has to give Yosef not Stam Toras HaGolus like Rav Yaakov Konetsky. He has to give him the Torah of Shem, because he's going to Mitzrayim where it's all about Gilei Arayas, and Shem's going to bring down the Gilei Arayas, and he's got to give him the Torah of Aver, who is Nitzel from Dor HaFlaga, and also we Nitzel Legamri Mitzrayim. Hamza very geschmack. Amaril Diskin writes in the beginning of Parshas Noach. Noach is called a tzaddik and a tamim, right? So Rabbi Shul Leib Diskin. What's the tzaddik? Just like Yosef HaTzaddik. HaTzaddik is the idea that you're nitzel, you're safe from Gili Arayis. What's tamim? Tamim is sholem be'emunaso. Noach was what? He had both these milas. He was sholem. He was a tzaddik, mitzad nitzel, Gili Arayis, and the chamas and the shchasa of his door. But he was what? Tzaddik tamim haya bid dorosa. He lived through what? The Dor HaMabul and down the Dora Floga. That's Dora Sov Lashon Rabin. He was the tzaddik in the Dora Mabul that he didn't fall prey to the seductive lure and temptation of Gilei Arayis, and he was a Tomim Sholim Be'emunoso, and he didn't rebel in the Dora of Nimrod. It's Gishmak. He's a tzaddik Tomim B'Darosov, tzaddik Keneged the Dora HaMabul, and Tomim writes Yeshulei Diskin Keneged the Dora HaFlaga. But it comes out what? A very geschmack. I'll be the Balaturim. Halamaisa, there were two Toras that were taught. We have in the same word Ben Zekunim, we have Zekunim Chaser Vav, Gematria 207, Gematria Raz, because he was taught the Rozim and the Seidas HaTorah. He was taught the Rozim, the secrets of the Torah. Mitzad Echad. Mitzad Sheni, we have Toras HaNiglah, Torah Shalpeh. We have Zekunim Rosh Teva Zeroyim, no Moed, Noshim, Nazik, and Kachim V'chulei. So we have a Remez also Torah Shalpeh. So that means in the end of the day, he gave over both. Yes, like Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky and Yamsi Yaakov, he gave over Torah Golis. Like Yamsi Yaakov Stelling Tzu, the Maril Diskin, he gave him the Torah Shem, he gave him the Torah Aver, he gave him Keneged Dara Mavo, Keneged Dara Flogo, it's Keneged Gile Rice, Mitzad Echad, Keneged the Hashkocha Sabayri Mitzad Sheni. Perhaps the Fi and Yestaiti, it's very geschmack then why he had to teach Yosef both going down to Mitzrayim. The Hainu what? I'll be Rabbi Shulei Diskin. What comes down is as follows. And at the end of the day, you have to bring out Kodesh Baruch Hu. You have to see God in the world. You have to know that He's the Mashkiach Tamidi. And that's what Dor Floga was all about. Nimrod, Yodesh and Yiskavina, I don't see God. He's not in my world. The world belongs to me. Havan Nivlo no ear, Nivlo no migdal. They got along mighty fine. There was no stealing, no perversity, no gilei arayis, no morality. But Lamaisa, they rebelled collectively against God. There's no God in this world. Let's get God out of Olam Hasa, the city. Horizontal and vertical imperialism. The world belongs to us. No Ashkacha Sabore. Dorha Mabul, on the other hand, was the Ashkos, the breaking down of society. Now, how do we overcome both? You're going down to Mitzrayim, which is the land of both. Mi Hashem, who is God? No, it's all Paro, it's all we own this world. It's mamash like Mei Nimrod all over again. Li Ori Bariyas Isuning, and it's the land of Shtufe, Zima, Zimra, Susim, Zermosim, Sarchamor, Besormayin, Traces, Ksubstav, Gimel, and Beis, and then the whole society was falling apart. So L'chaira, Yaakov Avinu, the Phineas night, he has to give Yosef HaTzadik two types of Torahs. He has to give him Hein Toras HaNiglah, Hein Toras HaNistar. What is Toras HaNiglah? That's the Amelis and Yegi of Torah Shemal Peh. Kedusha Naflam and Rabbeis Barasi Yitzhahara Barasi Lo Torah Tavlin. What's going to give us the Tavlin? You got to learn Torah. You got to schwitz on the Gemara, on the Rashi and the Taisus. You got to schwitz, and that's going to break down the Tavis, and that's going to give you the ability to combat the Ashchosa, the Dormabel, the Gilei Arayis, the promiscuity and the depravity and the immorality. That's Torah Siniga. Open up the Gemara, and that's the Torah Tavlin. That's Or Shabbat Masil Lemutov. That's going to give you the Kaich to battle the Yitzhar. Working and schwitzing on a Taisus and a Daf Yomi, working and Chazer, and that's going to give you the Kaich. But to see God in the world, yes, we know you'll see God from Gemara, but there are many people how they didn't see God from the Gemara. They made Gemara Talmud learning and intellectual exercise, but nothing brings out God in the Bria like the Sefer HaZohar, like the Sefer Yetzirah, like all the Kabbalistic works which are showing you the Pnimius, which is telling you to penetrate beneath the surface, see what's going on behind the scene. That's Rosi HaTorah, Sodas HaTorah. That brings out the Hashkocha Sabori more than anything, that God is behind the scenes every step in the way. That's Torah HaSod, that's Torah HaNistar. So it's Geshmak, in the same word. Yosef is Ben Zekunim. He gets what? Zekunim is Gematria 207, Gematria Raz. He's getting the Rozi, the Soda Satorah Mitzad Echad, and he's getting Mitzad Sheni Zekunim, a remes to the titles of Shisha and Mishnah. I like the Maral Diskin to come and Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky. He put it all together. It's very Geshmak. He's got to make Yosef the Ben Zekunim. I got to give him the ability to fight Hashem Atzad. Where are you going to see God? Give him Torah HaNistar, and you'll see God. Anyone who's learning Zohar Kodesh and Kisvei Ari, and you'll see God everywhere you go, everywhere you look. You'll see God mamish everywhere you go. You're going to pluck out and extract the pnimius in the sod. You're going to see God even in the pnimius. That's the sod. That's to bring out Ashkacha Sabore. Even when you're blackened and it's all camouflaged by Tumas Mitzrayim, but he's got to give him Torah Shebal Peh. And when you delve deeply into the Mishnayos, into the Gemara, that's Barasi Yitzhahara, that's Barasi Torah Tavlin, that's schwitzing over the Gemara. It's going to break down the Koch of Tavis, and that's going to give him the ability to thwart the influence of Eishes Potiphar and remain Yosef HaTzadik, Tzadik and Tamim, Tzadik and Tamim, Gevaldik, Torah HaNiglah, Torah HaNiglah, Torah HaNistar. It all comes together. Gevaldik, that's Yosef HaTzadik, and that's Chanukah. Bring it all together, having Have a Gavaldig and Shavur Tov Ketavach.